Welcome, everyone, to the PFF Fantasy Podcast, IDP edition. I'm John Macri, and I'll be going over the top 10 IDP takeaways from week 12, a week where we had 6 teams on a bye. So options were already thin, but then, of course, we had some injuries mixed in there as well. Just adding to the crazy this week, the Bye-Pocalypse, as it's referred to each year, which Mike Woolert, who was the guest on this week's preview show, is going to be disappointed in me for using that in the episode title. I'm sorry, Mike, but I couldn't think of anything else. So here we are. And as usual, we're going to kind of sort through it here. So we're going to look at some of the key linebacker situations and changes, react to some of the injuries. We got some defensive linemen to highlight in this episode as well. Also, we can get ready for a busy Thanksgiving week as we get very close to the fantasy playoffs. And as always, if there are some situations or players that you want to hear more about that I don't cover here, feel free to shout them out in the comments. I will always do my best to highlight them in some kind of way. Otherwise, this will be our top 10 IDP takeaways for this week. We'll have the IDP fantasy report out on Tuesday around noon Eastern time, which will have all the snap counts, data, notes, waiver targets for the entire week, which you can get access to with a PFF Plus subscription. And for those who aren't subscribed to the site just yet, we have a very nice deal for you for Black Friday. We have a promo code to save 35% off a PFF Plus subscription if you use the promo code SCORE35. That's SCORE 35. And I'll put the promo code along the bottom here for the YouTube crowd as well, so that you can see it. Again, it's promo code SCORE35, SCORE 35. That'll save you a nice chunk of scuttle on a subscription, and you'll get access to the IDP fantasy report, IDP rankings, all of our great fantasy content, and you'll also get all of our excellent draft content by the legend Trevor Sikkema, and so much more. So take advantage of the promo code if you've been waiting to save, because this isn't something that we do often in season. So be sure to dive in there and use the code if you have been waiting. I'll just leave it up there for the episode as well. All right. I didn't sort the takeaways this week by position, at least. And this Miami New England game is kind of the reason why, because I wanted to start here since I have several key notes from this game alone to go over, and multiple positions as well. But I'll start with the Patriots linebackers, which continues to be a bit of a shit show for IDP as far as usage goes, because they've become one of only a couple teams that do not use at least one full-time linebacker. And it's a heavy rotation from this group, which we never really want for fantasy. So it's important to kind of keep an eye on them. And the one constant, at least in recent weeks, has been Jelani Tavai, leading the way with the most snaps. He played 84%, but coming off the field on obvious passing downs, which isn't like the end of the world, because we do get much better tackle efficiency on rundowns, but it still limits his production where he can't make plays if he's not on the field, which goes without saying, right? So meanwhile, Christian Ellis and Sione Takitaki continued their early down rotation, while Ellis stayed on for those obvious passing downs. So it resulted in a 54% snap share for Ellis and 35% for Takitaki. All of these guys are really deep league options, especially Ellis and Takitaki at this point. So not relevant for most IDP formats, but if you are in deeper leagues, at least starting with Tavai can be an option. Okay, the other player that I really wanted to highlight and keep an eye on in this game, I've talked about him on pretty much, I guess, each of the past 2 episodes as well, since he's been activated off injured reserve. But Christian Barmore, defensive tackle for the New England Patriots. So Barmore made his debut last week, and I highlighted him as a waiver wire target in DT required leagues if he was available. Only played about 40% of snaps last week, basically just kind of getting his feet wet there. This week played nearly or a little bit more than half the snaps. So a little increase there. And with that, Barmore landed his first sack of the season, got 2 tackles in there as well. The pass rush metrics are still being reviewed, so not sure what those are going to look like. They're unlikely to be anything amazing this week, but still positive stuff from Barmore, playing more, getting the sack as well, which is certainly part of his appeal after he's proven really to be one of the better pass rushers at his position in recent years. And I'm really hoping he can get back to that for us down the stretch here, because he could be a key addition at a thin position for our IDP rosters if that's the case. So keep an eye out for Christian Barmore. Okay, on to the Miami side of things now in this game, and we'll start with their linebackers. And we were probably going to look at this group for the next few games here because of the Tyrell Dodson signing and wanting to know what that means for Anthony Walker's role, because there was slash is at least a chance that Dodson overtakes him here at some point, and we don't want to get Tennessee'd and Jack Gibbons did it again. But unfortunately, due to a hamstring injury, Anthony Walker only played 18 snaps in this game, leaving midway through the second quarter. It looks like, and he did not return. So after we didn't see Dodson last week, he only got not only did he get his first snaps as a Miami Dolphin this week, but he was basically forced into a starting role once Walker left the game because of that injury, even though he's only been with the team for like a week and a half now. So Dodson took over with Walker out of the game and ended up playing about 70% of the total snaps, which basically worked out to be a full-time role the rest of the way with Anthony Walker out. So now the important thing here is that the Dolphins play on Thanksgiving night this coming week. So it'll be a short week. And if Walker can't go, which considering hamstring injuries is we're probably going to assume he misses this game, it should mean a full-time role for Tyrell Dodson on Thursday night, making him a key waiver target, a potential plug and play option for those in need this week. So that'll be Tyrell Dodson. And again, just monitoring the Anthony Walker injury. And lastly, in this game at least, we don't usually have 4 separate pieces of info to break down in the same game, but here we are because I also wanted to highlight rookie edge defender Chop Robinson, who has been hot recently. Mike highlighted Chop on the preview show to get a sack this week against a leaky Patriots offensive line, and Chop was in fact able to get home. So shout out to Mike for that call, because he had a really nice game. He had not only the sack, 3 QB hits, 2 pass breakups, 4 total tackles, and that was just the box score numbers. And before I get into some of the underlying metrics, I do want to quickly address the other piece that we wanted to monitor with Chop here, which was his playing time, because last week he only played about 43% of the snaps, which was a little lower than his season norm as one of the snap leaders on the team at the position. And he was like 3rd in the rotation for that game. But this week was back to 2nd in the order, played 51%. It's not a huge difference, but it is kind of important for like his potential as an IDP asset, because he's considered a starter. He's playing with the starters. So we get some consistency in usage to rely on there. But yeah, the other thing with Chop is that I mentioned how he's been hot lately. Now, not just with 3 sacks over his last 4 games, but he's been playing really well to get us kind of feeling better about that production being sustainable. We talked about his 35% win rate last week when we were talking about him on the preview show, as well as the great pressure rate. And that's been the case here recently with him. Like, he had 6 pressures in back-to-back games heading into this week. And then this week, unofficially in this game, I do want to say unofficially, because we still have to review the game with the better film, but just working off the broadcast footage, this could change either up or down. Chop Robinson, right now, unreviewed, owns an 82.7 pass rush grade, which, if that sticks, would be the best mark of his NFL career, as he's steadily improved over the past month as well. We also have him for 9 total pressures in this game, also a career high, and a 35% win rate again. So Chop Robinson is dominating these advantageous matchups as of late, which is no guarantee for a rookie, right? So really promising stuff there from Chop. And I'm sure his dynasty managers will be happy to hear that as well. But otherwise, it also kind of continues to be a great sign for him as a starting option this year in IDP redraft, right? If we're getting a good enough matchup. I think they play the Packers on Thanksgiving night. That's one of the worst matchups in the league, just considering their offensive line and Jordan Love's ability to avoid sacks. But otherwise, like, there will be matchup dependent weeks where we can rely on Chop Robinson. Okay, checking in on the Lions, who were without, they will be without Alex Anzalone for the remainder of the fantasy football season. So the focus shifts to Jack Campbell and Malcolm Rodriguez as the leaders right now. And we knew, what to expect from this group for the most part, even with them bringing in David Long this week. It was Jack Campbell playing 100% of snaps, so good confirmation, to the bump in his IDP value there, while Malcolm Rodriguez played 89% of snaps, really nice snap share for him, and right about where we expected him, in that kind of 90% range with Anzalone out. Now, for Rodriguez, the usage we were going to look out for had to do with how often he'd play along the defensive line, which we obviously don't love. And it wasn't too bad for him this week, at least relative to last week, seeing about 27% of his total snaps out of that alignment. And it did help his tackle rate stay afloat there, that it wasn't as high on the defensive line, but it's also not great as far as making him kind of a weekly IDP starter. He could be fine in deeper leagues, but that role will hurt him a little bit, even if it is better than, the 37% that he spent on the defensive line last week. Meanwhile, David Long did make his first cameo as a Detroit Lion after being picked up as a free agent following his release from Miami. Long pretty much played only on like some early downs as part of the base personnel, rotating with guys like Ben Neiman and Ezekiel Turner in those situations. I'm not sure if the Lions will ever give him a significant role to the point where, we're starting him in IDP again this year, but you never know with their rotation. It's not impossible that he passes like a Malcolm Rodriguez, even if it is unlikely. So for now, we're just keeping an eye on the situation, and maybe he'll work his way up a bit, but not expecting too much there for David Long right now, but we'll see. Okay, I wanted to highlight the Giants' edge defenders coming into this week, just because of Kayvon Thibodeaux coming off of injured reserve, and considering how many IDP managers have been relying on Azeez Ojulari. So unfortunately, Ojulari suffered a toe injury at the end of the first quarter in this game and did not return. So must have been some toe injury. I don't know, if he's expected to miss more time. But for what it's worth, Ojulari was out snapping Thibodeaux in that first quarter, 12-7. So it seemed like the Giants felt okay about easing Thibodeaux back into the lineup because they had Ojulari. But the injury naturally expedited the usage for Thibodeaux, who ended up playing about 63% of the total snaps. Brian Burns played 92% of the snaps, by the way, just didn't do much with it, which was unfortunate because it was at least a better matchup once Tristan Wirfs was announced out. So we'll see what's going on with Ojulari's toe, but we did think that Thibodeaux being back would ultimately hurt Ojulari's usage and IDP value anyways, but of course it's kind of harder to confirm that for sure with Ojulari getting hurt. So Thibodeaux also, the pass rush metrics right now, not likely to be very good coming out of this game. I don't want to say what the unreviewed grades are just yet, but they're not good. So we'll see how that changes on review or not. But this has been an issue with him for his NFL career. We'll give him a bit of a break, though, considering it was his first game back from injury. Just something to be aware of with him. Okay, last week on Monday Night Football, we got some really weird usage from the Houston Texans linebackers where, for some reason, Devin White was getting utilized more than we'd expect, or more than he should have, especially in the second half where White had played 91% of the possible snaps over Henry To'oTo'o, who barely saw the field in that second half, and it didn't appear to be injury related. So maybe it was like a benching of To'oTo'o in that one. I'm not really sure. Either way, this week it seemed that cooler heads kind of prevailed because we went back to Azeez Ojulari, or Azeez Al-Shaair, and Hanky Two Toes playing full-time roles while Devin White was relegated back to being a base linebacker, seeing only 25% of the defensive snaps. So sign of relief there for To'oTo'o managers for now, as he played 94% of the snaps. I know there has been some talk about Christian Harris coming off injured reserve, and last I heard of that situation was they were going to consider bringing him off IR after their bye week, which isn't until week 14. So the earliest we would see Christian Harris is week 15. And that doesn't even mean that he'll get right back into game action or a full-time role. So for now, we don't have to worry about him. And it doesn't seem like we have to worry about old Devin White either, which is very nice to see for Hanky Two Toes' IDP value here. All right, the Tennessee Titans, they were the focus of last week's recap show because of them pulling the rug out from under us as Jack Gibbons managers. Of course, Gibbons is now out for the year. after he also later got injured in that game last week. So obviously not going to be a factor here, but still wanted just to do a quick check-in for folks on their linebacker core, since it's technically a different looking setup with no Gibbons and Baker as basically a confirmed starter now. And basically it was just as expected here with Kenneth Murray going in, continuing his full-time role, while Jerome Baker also played every single snap right alongside him. Baker, despite playing every snap, made just 3 tackles in this game for, this is the kind of tackle efficiency that has long been a part of his lore as a starting IDP, consistently near the bottom of the tackles versus expected metric every season. So not too surprised with the output here. And it won't be the last time either. So just being aware of how ineffective Jerome Baker can be at times. At least Kenneth Murray had a nice game, even coming up with a pick in this game. So as far as full-time linebackers go, Jerome Baker, he's going to be on the lower end of potential starters. Murray probably more in that mid-range. And it is kind of worth differentiating these guys, especially as we head into a week with no teams on a bye in week 13. And then obviously in the fantasy playoffs, the bye weeks are done as well. So there are guys that, even though snaps matter more than anything, there's going to be guys that we prefer in those 100% snap roles to others. And Jerome Baker is on the lower end just because of his history of inefficient tackling. Okay, checking in on the Green Bay Packers linebackers this week, because rookie Edgerrin Cooper was out for this game with a hamstring injury, which was unfortunate because we saw a nice snap bump from him last week coming out of the team's bye week. So that was promising kind of for his rest of season value. Unfortunately, we might not get that depending on when he's, able to get back healthy here. And the Packers are another one of those short week teams playing on Thanksgiving this week where Cooper may not get back in time for another game, unfortunately. However, that creates some opportunities for others in that linebacker core, specifically Isaiah McDuffie, who finished with 84% of snaps, but really it was 95% of snaps if you take garbage time out of the mix in this one. Those final 6 snaps, it made all the difference there. They didn't play a ton on defense. So those final 6 snaps where it was like, I think it was Eric Wilson and Tyron Hopper out there. So really the snap shares on there show 88% for Quay Walker, 84% for Isaiah McDuffie. Really, it was 100% for Quay Walker, 95% for Isaiah McDuffie if we're taking out, the garbage time and just looking at the real snaps in this game. So again, short week for the Pack playing on Thanksgiving. We can look at McDuffie as a waiver target here if you need help. Every team is playing in week 13, so might be less of a need, but I'm sure there are still plenty of rosters in need there, and Isaiah McDuffie could be an option. All right, let's wrap up with one of our Sunday night football teams, the Los Angeles Rams, and their linebacker core, because this group is always interesting. And as usual, we did not get a 100% snap linebacker from this group. Instead, Omar Spates played 78% of snaps. Christian Roseboom played 75% of snaps, which is better than it was last week. I think both guys were 65% or lower. But also, this was a game that the Eagles won fairly easily thanks to Saquon Barkley. And these two also played more, in theory, to try and stop Saquon Barkley. But, oh man, did that fail miserably. 255 rushing yards from Saquon on their ass. So just unreal work by Saquon. Hopefully, if you're listening to this, you have Saquon on your team, or at the very least weren't playing against him. Anyways, Omar Spates and Christian Roseboom, man, these guys, it's been rough. But, I would say Roseboom's probably the better linebacker at this point. Omar Spates, I don't think he's it, man. For those holding out hope that this UDFA rookie could be something for Dynasty, I have my doubts. He's not very good. That was on full display here this week, just getting dummied out there on the second level, missing tackles, can't cover worth a damn. Like, if the Rams don't address linebacker this offseason, I would really be shocked. But anyways, for this season, we can treat these two as deep league options, but we'll keep an eye on a potential Troy Reader IR activation, because that will really shake things up for these Rams linebackers. I talked about it on the preview show, how the Rams only have one IR activation left, and it's between between Troy Reader and John Johnson III. So they have to make a choice there. Judging by how this linebacker core got run on today, I mean, if Troy Reader is able to go, I would probably lean that way. We'll see what happens here, but that's going to do it for me this week, guys, and our main IDP takeaways. As always, be sure to check out the IDP Fantasy Report, which will be out on Tuesday afternoon, and then we'll have plenty more included in there, and I'll look to pin that in the comments in this video. And then as for the IDP preview show this week, things are a little different because of Thanksgiving schedules, so I'll be recording that one likely Tuesday evening or Wednesday morning by myself in order to get it out Wednesday at some point before the 3 Thanksgiving games. Yes, get it out on Wednesday before the Thursday Thanksgiving games. And I have a request from you guys as well, because my schedule very tight right now down the stretch of the season. So it's possible that I will record the rest of the preview shows by myself to get things out a little bit quicker, keep the episodes a little bit tighter, etc. Make things a little bit easier on me. But please let me know if you would rather have the episodes have guests in them instead of just me. And if that's the case where most people want that, then I will find a way to make it work. If it makes no difference, then please let me know that as well. I really do want to hear about you guys from you guys, because I struggling a little bit with the decision. I want to be able to, not let you guys down as listeners here as far as getting the information out. And if you enjoy the guests, I don't want to take that away either. So it's more just about my schedule and trying to fit things in. That would be the only reason that I'm going towards that, and try to keep things a little bit tighter. But again, leave a comment in the YouTube comments or reach out to me via Twitter at PFF_Macri. Let me know. I'm open to any and all suggestions. I will have guests no matter what in the off season, but just trying to think of how to kind of streamline things here in season. So please let me know if it matters to you, and don't be shy or hesitate to reach out, because I really do want to hear from as many people as possible. But yeah, that's it for today. Appreciate you all. Good luck the rest of this week. Have a nice Thanksgiving, but we will see you before then. And until next time, peace out.